All right, what's going on, everybody? It's been a minute. How y'all doing?
What's up, everybody?
I apologize for the interruption. I had a minor death incident where I died and came back to life, but it's good to be back, being alive, doing audio content again. Austin, how you doing?
Doing good, ready to talk about this nightmare of a Cowboys offseason.
Oh, yeah, it's been bad, but of course, in draft time tradition, I got started off. I'm drinking a Yingling lager. Thank God it came to Texas finally.
I was drinking water, but, it's gone.
Oh man, you were all about it on the live stream the other day, but now you're cutting it short, man.
I'll get back into it, but not tonight.
All right. Well, without further ado, Austin set it off. We're talking about the Cowboys offseason, their draft targets. It's been a pretty damn bad offseason, if I'm being honest. And I don't know if you feel any different, but
Oh, man. Stephen Jones is going to force me into an early grave with the way he operates.
shit, yeah, I might die a second time the way he's treating this team. Like, it's not been pretty.
Oh,
It's
man.
been ugly.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the guys we lost first before we get into the ones we re-signed and the few that we've added.
All right, so the first one on our list is right tackle Lyle Collins. Let's pull up the trade compensation.
We released Lyle Collins.
Oh, well, even worse. So,
Yeah, Dallas Cowboys released Lyle Collins because they believe that Terrence Steele's the right tackle of the future. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but Lyle Collins is a top 10, worst top 15 tackle when he's healthy and when he cares, which understandably has been a concern and was likely the deciding factor in the release of Collins. He signed with the Super Bowl losing Cincinnati Bengals to help shore up their offensive line. And there was really no reason to release him other than they didn't like him as a person, which seems to be how the Joneses operate in that front office. So, what are your thoughts, Tyler?
to put it frank, I fucking hate it. I mean, Terrence Steele was surprisingly decent, but Lyle Collins, in my opinion, is at worst a top 12 right tackle. You don't release him. If you're wanting to get rid of him, trade him. You can at worst get a third rounder.
That's what they need to not do is come out and tell these teams in the NFL they're just going to release these guys if they can't find a trade partner. We've got another one of those coming up as well. Yeah, Terrence Steele is apparently one of the hardest working guys in that locker room, and if he turns into that franchise right tackle, then I will be able to live with this move more. I really hope he does for his own sake because releasing Lyle Collins is just a mess.
Yeah, the Cowboys seem to have this philosophy of tipping their hand before they make a move. And it's incredibly frustrating. Like, they either have someone who's openly going to the Schefters and the Rapports, to whoever, and saying, hey, we're going to cut this guy. And that doesn't work. If you have a leak in your organization, get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tip your hand. Just be like to a team, hey, what would you give me for a Lyle Collins instead of being, oh, hey, we're going to release him. How about you give me a fifth or a sixth? It's a terrible way to do business, and it's been this way for a long time. And I'm quite frankly, I'm sick of it.
I could not agree more. I'm guessing Amari Cooper is next on the list since we need to keep this one pretty close to the Lyle Collins talk.
He is. The number one receiver, arguably number one in Dallas, is gone. And what was his compensation? A fifth?
A fifth, and then a swap of sixths.
Yeah, fuck that.
Was what we got for Amari Cooper, who's one of the 5 best route runners in the NFL, was the number one receiver on this team. I understand that what their viewpoint was. I just think it's a shit viewpoint. I am the biggest Michael Gallup fan on the planet, and I think CeeDee Lamb deserves the shot to be the number one. but I'd have taken Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb with Cooper as the number 2 because I think that's where their trajectories were heading over re-signing Michael Gallup, even though we got a really good contract with Michael Gallup. And yeah, Amari Cooper was kind of public with his disdain for the way the offense was playing, and his COVID vaccination status was probably an issue as well in the front office. They got to stop getting so attached to personalities and people when it is a football business. And I understand you want good people in your organization, but Amari Cooper, man, what more can you say? And now he is in Cleveland, and Dallas netted a 5th-round pick. Disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, at worst, he's a top 5 route runner in the league. I mean, his hands have been questionable at times, but the drops have been less of an issue as it seems in Dallas. And I mean, we'll get to him later, but I like the James Washington signing as a replacement for Gallup, not Cooper. Like, he fit the Gallup mold perfectly, not the Cooper mold. Now you pigeonhole yourself into something, again, we'll get into later, a draft target of either you're going offensive line round 1 or you're going receiver.
You traded a 1st-round pick 3 years ago for Amari Cooper. And you re-signed him to a $100 million deal. Now, obviously, they put the contract language for him to get in that contract to get out of it after 2 years. We saw this as a possibility. But why trade a 1st-round pick for a guy just to trade him 3 years later?
I mean, at the worst, you could have gotten a 3rd again. Like, at the very worst.
And in a class,
tip your fucking hand.
And in a draft class where the 3rd round is going to have a lot of really good value just because of the type of class it is.
Exactly. Like, let me look at my draft board real quick. Well, I have 2nd and 4th round receivers, but I don't have any 3rds currently, but maybe Mechie could slip there. He's not bad. Maybe your boy Khalil Shakir. Izukanma, the tech receiver. Alec Pierce, Cincinnati. I mean, this is awful.
I would look at my draft board, but there's 5 names on it because this year was not a draft year for me. Unfortunately.
Fair enough, but
I just couldn't find the time to watch as many guys. But I do have opinions on a lot of the class from live viewings and a lot of stuff that I've heard from my fellow coworkers here with Tyler and Blue Chip Scouting. I have opinions, and yeah, I would have taken Khalil Shakir in the 3rd round with that extra pick if you could have gotten it for Amari Cooper in a heartbeat. And it's a Boise State player. You know how Jerry loves his Boise State guys. They'll probably still take him in the 3rd round with the pick they have, but they could have gotten another 3rd round pick and then another one on top of it for La'el Collins if they just hadn't told the league they were going to release him.
It's just absolutely ridiculous the way they tip their hands. I mean, you're looking at maybe, let's see here, Alex Wright and Khalil Shakir in the 3rd, if you can get 2 3rd-round picks there.
And then one more because their own 3rd-round pick.
Yeah, and let's see another one that I have here. Maybe
tight end,
Cade Otton. Kentucky, the center, if he's your type poison. Like, that's better than a 5th and nothing. Because you're not getting anything for releasing La'el Collins. You're not getting a comp pick. That's fucking stupid.
That 5th-round pick is going to either be a kicker or someone that doesn't contribute for a fringe top 10 receiver.
I will give them credit in the 5th round. It's better than the Nahshon Wright pick they made last year usually, but
oh man,
story for a different day.
For sure.
The next offseason loss we have on record is Greg Zuerlein, the kicker. How do you feel about him?
We released him. They were apparently trying to get him back. I'm glad they didn't because he was bad last year. And the Jets can have him.
Yeah, honestly, he's probably the one I'm least upset about on this list. Like, he missed, I think, at least 2 extra points that I can recall. I mean, there's better options in the draft. Give me Cade York in the 6th and call it a day.
A nod to Tom Downey from Chat Sports and fellow Dallas Cowboys guy. I wasn't even calling Greg Zuerlein by his name. He is the kicker. He finally earned his name back when Dallas released him. And now he's Cowboys legend, Greg Zuerlein.
Forever in infamy, Cowboys legend Greg Zuerlein.
I mean, if you look at him last year, if he just makes the easy kicks, you probably beat the Raiders, probably beat the Cardinals, and then you're looking at a 1 seed, and you're not playing in the first weekend, and it's a completely different ball game. You're not talking about a loss to the 49ers in week 1 of the postseason. You're talking about at least a divisional round appearance, and anything could have happened from there.
That is completely fair. What remains to be seen is what the Cowboys do at that position.
Who do we have on roster at kicker?
We might have a practice squad guy. I'm not too sure.
I am looking right now. That is loading slowly, so give me just a second. We have no kickers on roster. We have 2 punters. I didn't know we had Hunter Nicewander back, but, you know.
Oh, yeah, I think he was a practice squad guy.
Or is this from last year, or from last offseason? Because this doesn't look like the roster at all.
I think Nicewander was a practice squad guy last year.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So
we don't have a kicker. So maybe we go punt God in like the 5th if he's there, and he's shown the ability to kick. Not as great as Katie York, but
I think if you're going to take the punter kicker guy, you're going to take Cameron Dicker in the 7th, just because I don't trust our punt God as a kicker, and we have the All-Pro punter in Brian Anger still.
That's true. Dicker the kicker actually punted before, I think a couple times, right?
He was doing both this year for Texas.
Okay, so yeah, he could be an option, especially if he slips to UDFA. I mean, wouldn't surprise me at all if the Cowboys give him a call.
They tend to gravitate towards the Longhorns and the Aggies that slip through the cracks and get undrafted.
Shout out Jalen Weidemeyer, who lost himself a lot of money.
Oh, you just know I'm gonna jump to the draft talk because you know that Jalen Weidemeyer is going to be drafted by Dallas and probably in the 3rd. That feels like what will
lose
happen.
My shit. I'll be so mad.
Oh,
I had him as a 2nd-round player off tape, and I noted like his speed was going to be super questionable. Explosion was not good,
and then he tested like the worst
503 or some shit. That's terrible.
One of the worst athletes we've ever seen at the position, potentially. Just
absolutely terrible. I could not believe it. Like, I was guessing 4.8, something like that. Something where he's draftable at least, but good God.
All right.
So next on our list, we have Cedric Wilson, now Miami Dolphin, I believe.
Yes, and we can also talk about Connor Williams, who also signed with the Dolphins.
Yes, he is next on the list. So they're 2 for 1, kind of.
All right, so Cedric Wilson played really well whenever you had Amari Cooper out for a couple games with COVID. Dallas kind of used him as, I don't want to say wide receiver 1, but they targeted him a lot in Kellen Moore's scheme this offseason, and he got a pretty nice payday with the Dolphins, who just traded Devontae Parker in the division, which was shocking. So now he is the 3rd receiver in Miami behind the 2 speedsters, Jalen Waddle and obviously Tyreek Hill, who was just traded. What an offseason. So he should have a lot of chances to get open in that offense and find some really easy targets from Tua in the middle of the field. And with Connor Williams, he wasn't that bad. Y'all in Cowboys Nation need to chill out when a player makes a few mistakes. He was a good, serviceable guard, and he's going to be an immediate upgrade in that Miami offensive line room because they are terrible.
So out of the 2, I'm more upset about losing Wilson because he was a reliable 4th target for this offense. Like, defenses wouldn't focus on him. He could find nooks and crannies.
And he had the speed.
Defense. Yeah, he had the top speed to do it. He was a reliable 4th option for Dak. And James Washington could be a good 4th target for Dak, but right now he projects as a 3rd, maybe 2nd, depending on where they play CD. And James Washington was never a good separator, which is why I liked him as a Gallup replacement. Because Gallup isn't the best separator either. He's a contested catch guy. Same as James Washington. Wilson actually showed the ability to separate over certain distances. So I'd say I'm more upset about losing him over Williams. Williams is more replaceable, but he did get more hate than he deserved. I agree with you on that. But I think he is easily more replaceable if you address him in the first 3 rounds. If you get to like round 4, round 5, you could argue Wilson is more replaceable if the Cowboys don't address Williams' replacement.
In regards to Cedric Wilson, I believe that the Cowboys think they have something there in Simi Fehoko, who they took in the 5th round last year, who has got that top end speed, but from what I remember, couldn't catch a cold. So there's that. Got to be able to catch as a receiver. As for Connor, you're pretty much pigeonholing yourself into one of Kenyon Green or Zion Johnson in the 1st round if they're there, and they might not be there. And then your starting left guard is Connor McGovern, who had one good game last year, and it was at right guard, and the rest were terrible when they benched Connor Williams for him at left. Your offensive line is in bad shape. Tyron Smith and Zach Martin aren't getting any younger. You hope that you have development there from Biotish, and you hope Terrence Steele really is the best worker in the world and become a top flight right tackle. But what was the strength of Dallas's offense from 2016 to 2019 is easily their biggest weakness, potentially on the whole roster right now, and that is not good.
Yeah, what was once arguably the most dominant unit in the entire league with 3 perennial All-Pros?
I don't even know if it's arguable. I think it's just fact.
Yeah, like they're a fraction of themselves. Zach Martin is still an All-Pro player. Tyron Smith, you can count on 7 games of the year, maybe 9 if you're lucky. The rest, he's going to be questionable out with injury. This offensive line is not in good shape. And trading La'el Collins again or cutting him?
Just outright releasing him.
Fucking stupid.
They could have played him at left guard if they really wanted to. I wouldn't have loved it because I don't think he was great at guard when he was playing there. But if they really wanted,
McGovern.
Exactly. If they were really set on making Steele the right tackle of the future, they could have played La'el Collins at guard. As you can tell, we are not happy about how this offseason has gone. And we've got one more big loss that is just going to make us even more pissed off than we were.
Yeah, the one that probably irks me the most is Randy Gregory. I'll let you start, Austin.
This man was signed. This man was all but pen to paper signed to come back to Dallas for the same contract he took in Denver. But Stephen Jones wanted to get cute, and they're trying to save face saying that it's in all the contracts except Dak with this little language thing. I don't believe that. I think that is a PR thing. I do not believe they put that in every contract. I think it was purely Stephen Jones trying to cover his ass if Gregory got into trouble again, which he wasn't going to, because weed's not going to get you in trouble in the NFL anymore. So he was signed all but, and they let him go to Denver because of Stephen Jones's ego. And that is the biggest atrocity of this offseason, even more so than letting 2 Pro Bowl / potential All-Pro players go with little to no compensation when they were under contract. Losing Randy Gregory was despicable and egregious from this front office. And Jerry Jones was pissed about it because he had the contract signed and his son decided to go AWOL. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if that isn't enough to fire Steven, I don't know what is from Jerry. Like, does he gotta restructure Dak's deal to where he hates it and he forces a trade? Like, Randy Gregory is a phenomenal player. And I'm probably his second biggest fan outside of Jeffrey Kavanaugh. Like,
he was so good. So good in the locker room too. If you watch any of the Cowboys videos, like on their YouTube channel from behind the scenes stuff, you could just see the personality that Gregory brought to this team and how he lifted everyone else up with his outgoingness and his just Yeah, his personality was great for the locker room, and they just let him walk because we've been saying for years that when Jerry dies, everything's going to get better. No, it's not, because it's Steven's
No.
team at that point.
Yeah. So outside of Jeffrey Kavanaugh, like, I'm probably one of Randy Gregory's biggest fans. I remember a couple of years ago, pre-TB death, before I died, I was at Bottle Blonde, a club in Deep Ellum, Dallas. And one of our friends decided to splurge out and buy a table. The table connected to ours was a bunch of random people. I'm already fairly toasted. And I look over, I see a big old guy just sipping a drink, chilling, nodding his head to the music. I turn to my friend, I'm like, I think I know that guy. He's like, no, you don't. Shut up. He's 3 times bigger than you. I'm like, no, like, I swear I've seen him. I think about it. I'm like, wait, that's Randy Gregory.
Oh man.
He like exits to go to the bathroom or like nods, goes by our table. Like, I like pull him aside real quick. I'm like, you're Randy Gregory, aren't you? And he's just like, yeah. Shh. I'm like, oh my God. Like, what the fuck? I absolutely love you. Like, you're amazing. He pulled me aside to the patio. We talked ball for like 30 minutes. Nothing but an incredible guy. Like, absolutely loved him. Like, I was toasted, probably not making half the sense with the words I said, but the fact he like pulled me out to the patio and talked ball with me for 30 minutes, respected the work that I do with the draft and everything, I could not have gained any more respect for them than I already have. Like, I absolutely love Randy Gregory, and I am absolutely livid that Stephen Jones did the shit he did and reworked the wording of the contract to let him go. Like, if I was Jerry, like, that's a fireable offense to me.
Yeah, but family overall in that family there. So it sucks to lose him. He's going to kill it in Denver with Bradley Chubb. That defense is fantastic. That entire division's fantastic. I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point.
They stole Surtain from us last year. They got
They stole
Chubb,
Caden
Gregory.
Stearns from me.
Yep, Stearns, your boy. I mean, their defense looking good. And they just added Russ Wilson. I mean, man, they're
And
going to be fun.
And they still might be the third best team in that division.
That's what's scary. That division is nuts.
If you're a team in the AFC that's not in the AFC West, win your division, because you're not going to be a wild card.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
that's the take I'm putting out right now. The wild cards in the AFC this year will be the 3 teams that don't win the AFC West. I think all 4 teams make the playoffs.
Can you make 3 teams in the wild card?
Yeah, because there's 7 teams in the playoffs now.
Oh, that's right. They added one.
Yep. I think all 4 teams make the playoffs in the AFC West.
I wouldn't disagree as of right now. I mean,
because your other wild card options, you're looking at the Browns if Deshaun Watson doesn't get suspended, which I don't expect. I firmly expect him to be suspended at least 7-8 games, and it should be more. Just putting it out there. The Ravens or the Bengals, whoever doesn't win that division, and then in the AFC South, you don't got it.
Texans Jaguars division.
Yeah, so Titans and Colts are going to be fighting for it, but I don't expect the loser to not make the to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
and
you got Titans. That's East, it.
Well, the Colts added Matt Ryan, so they very well could win. I think they could win that division very easily. And if Trevor develops, the Jaguars will be in it, but not really, because they've been terrible this offseason and probably will waste the number 1 overall pick.
They spent like $50 million on Christian Kirk. They're not going anywhere this year.
Man, get Trent Baalke out of the NFL. Anyway,
I love Kirk, but he's not worth the money they gave him.
Rant averted. Randy Gregory's a Bronco, and that's that.
Well, to move on from our negative rant, let's go to more negative rants with the Cowboys offseason additions. We'll start with their 2 additions, it seems like. What do you expect from Dante Fowler?
Nothing? Is it fair to say nothing?
I think
This
so.
it feels like the HaHa Clinton Dix signing from 2 years ago or 3 years ago, however long ago that was. I don't think he makes the roster. I'm sorry. I know he's had some decent years, but with injuries piling up and just production not really being there, he's back with Dan Quinn, which could help. And if he's a contributor, I'll be all the way there for it because he's a former top 3 pick. He's got the athletic traits from that. He's still got that athleticism and that profile, but just hasn't been able to keep it together the last couple of years. We'll see. You know, it's a bargain bin move. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of those. Just two signings from other teams in 4 weeks of free agency. So we'll see. That's really all I can say about this is we'll see. Same with James Washington. I actually went to college with one of James Washington's friends from high school. So, and he's a Giants fan, so he's probably not too thrilled about his buddy signing in Dallas. But he was solid. He was buried in that receiver room because they were always drafting someone in the second round to take over for him with Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. They drafted one this year, right? Or making things up. I think I'm making things up.
Giants?
No, the Steelers. Sorry, I got on a rant about the Steelers. No, they didn't. They drafted Freiermuth in the second, but that's tight end.
Yeah.
Washington's solid number 4 option. You're probably gonna have to draft one in the first 2 rounds at receiver if you're Dallas, but we'll see. I'm more concerned about our re-signings than our additions so far because we haven't added anyone that I really am super impressed with. We've re-signed a lot of guys.
Yeah, so Dante Fowler in his what appears to be 6-year career, I want to say. Maybe 5-year?
I thought he was 2013, but he may have been 2015.
6-year career. He's had 35 sacks, 44 tackles for loss. And he was what kind of pick? Like top 15?
3rd overall.
3rd overall? My God.
Yeah, Jaguars picked him 3rd overall in 2015. That was what class was that? That was the EJ Manuel class. So that was a really
That was a bad draft, but holy shit. This guy's underperformed like no other, to say the least. Like, maybe it's that draft class because it sucks so much. It's not bad, but
that was the Jameis Winston class. My mistake. So he was the first player to go that wasn't a quarterback because it was Jameis and then Mariota.
And he might be the most viable player out of those top 10 picks.
Jeez.
I mean, I'm trying to look at his best year sack-wise, and
it was 3 years ago or 2 years ago.
It doesn't look like he got over he had to gotten over 4.
Oh, never mind. That was actually a really good top 10. That was Amari Cooper, Brandon Scherf, Leonard Williams, Todd Gurley is not really good, but
Dante Fowler's year?
Yeah. Jameis, Mariota, Fowler, Cooper, Scherf, Leonard Williams, Kevin White, who I don't think you can name a bigger draft bust, unfortunately, due to health. Vic Beasley had a couple good years and one fantastic year. Eric Flowers is still starting somewhere, and Todd Gurley was the best back in the league for 2 years.
So there were some good players there, but Dante Fowler, man. I mean, you can get hope that he gets revitalized under Quinn the way he did with Jaron Kearse.
I was about to say, you hope he is this year's Jaron Kearse, and the fact that you brought him in and he revitalizes something.
Yeah, we'll get to Kearse later, but there's obviously hope with what Dan Quinn has done with his defense and that he's staying, but I mean, it's a typical Cowboys signing. Low risk, high upside. It fits their bill completely. It fits the bill with what they did with Malik Hooker, who I was happy about last year that they signed.
And he's back.
He is. But it fits their bill to a T. They haven't gone out and got a big-time free agent since
Brandon Carr.
T.O. or Brandon Carr, yeah. Those are the last 2 that I can think of that were notable. And Brandon Carr wasn't awful with us, but he wasn't great.
They signed Greg Hardy for 5 games, but he was a piece of shit.
Yeah. I mean, he also fits the Cowboys' bill of being a Dallas convict, but I mean, there's hope with Fowler that Quinn can revitalize him, but to replace Randy Gregory, I mean, it's just a complete shitstorm by the front office. There's no other way to put it. Like, they completely blew the Randy Gregory signing. And they're like, oh, we got to get a big name to bring in tickets, replace him. Let's sign a top 10 pick from 5-6 years ago. That'll do it.
Give Zadarius Smith the same contract we gave Randy Gregory? Nah. Or tried to give Randy Gregory? Nah, we don't want to do that. We'll let him go to Minnesota to be with Daniil Hunter. It's truly embarrassing the way they think that this team can be built. And clearly, after 27 years of nothing, it's not working. You've had and the worst part about it is you've had Super Bowl caliber quarterbacks on the roster in Tony Romo and Dak Prescott, and you cannot build the team around them because you're trying to build with the bottom of the barrel and trying to draft when your drafts are just, there are a couple good years. 2020 was fantastic. One of the best drafts we've seen in a long time. And other than that, it's a lot of average. Yes, they got Micah Parsons last year, but then they fumbled the bag in the third round outside of Osa Odigizua with the Nashawn Wright pick, which should not be discussed. And then Chauncey Golston, who they probably are going to try and put into the Dorrance Armstrong role, with Dorrance Armstrong stepping into the Randy Gregory role. Kelvin Joseph is yet to be seen. He showed a lot of potential with Trayvon, and if he can get it going with Trayvon Diggs, that'll be a solid cornerback duo. But you re-signed two players from your 2018 draft class this year, and one of them was a one-year prove-it deal, and that was your first-round pick in Leighton Vander Esch. You can't build this team this way because you're not good enough at drafting, despite having one of the best talent evaluators in the NFL in Will McClay in your front office. Okay, I'm done ranting for now.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like, I couldn't have said it better. But
I've gone over this rant too many times with too many people because it's tiresome.
And you alluded to him earlier. The next offseason addition, James Washington. How do you feel about him?
I thought he had a lot of potential coming out of Oklahoma State. Pittsburgh just kept burying him in that depth chart with the additions of Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson. They still had Juju Smith-Schuster, who didn't really play all that much, but point being, James Washington got buried and was not the type of receiver that Ben Roethlisberger could utilize because Ben Roethlisberger didn't have an arm for the last 3 years. He's a vertical threat, built a lot of the same mold as Michael Gallup, not as talented, not as dynamic by any means, but he's built in the same mold, and now they're both on the roster. We knew this one was coming. Tyler Browning told me like 4 weeks ago, or 4 weeks before he signed, if he got an offer with Dallas, he would come home. And it makes a lot of sense. I just don't understand the idea of trying to build your roster with the two guys who are deep threats, but aren't explosive, overly fast deep threats. The one thing I've been complaining about with this wide receiver core for a long time is speed, because who's the last burner you can remember in this receiving core? And I wouldn't classify Cedric Wilson as a true burner, so
maybe T.O.
Probably T.O.
Him as a burner.
And do we really?
At his age, I don't know.
Dallas is the anti-Philly when it comes to receivers. They don't want speed. I love CeeDee Lamb. I wish he was faster. He's still fantastic. He's going to be a wide receiver 1 and going to be a top 10 receiver in the NFL. Probably this year, and top 5 one day, in my opinion. But you need that. If you're going to build a receiving core with centered around CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup, you need someone to take the edge off of the top off that defense, which is why. Can we go? Are we close to getting into draft talk? No, we've still got some re-signings to talk about.
Yeah, we've got quite a few re-signings.
So I'll save that point until we get into draft talk. But you got to get some speed into that room.
I mean, yeah, like I said it earlier, like I love the James Washington signing, especially if it was for a Gallup replacement, not an Amari Cooper replacement. Like, Amari Cooper is a natural route runner and separator. James Washington is not. He's a contested catch guy. He's not going to win a separation. He's going to go up, put his body in an ideal position, come down with catch, and make it maybe 4 to 5 times out of 10, which isn't bad for NFL standards, but maybe Gallup gets you 6 out of 10. Like, I don't know. Like,
And
Gallup, I would say, is a better contested catch situation than James Washington.
and the thing is, CeeDee Lamb brings a lot of that too.
Yeah, he
CeeDee
does.
Lamb brings
He's
a
good.
lot of body control in the air and a lot of adjustments at the catch point into his game. So now you've got 3 guys that are not the same player, but they have that same role in this offense.
So it just makes the Amari Cooper trade absolutely more stupid. Like, I had from a good source, someone that went to school at James Washington, and I floated on Twitter. I was like, I know he's from Texas. Like, if the Cowboys offer him a deal that's reasonable to him, probably wouldn't be too much. Would he be interested in coming home? He DM'd to me within like 5 minutes. He's like, hey, I've talked to him. If the Cowboys offer anywhere close to what other teams are offering, he's coming home.
Mm-hmm.
So I was happy with the signing because I believe he was signed when Amari Cooper was still on the team. I was like, perfect. I knew the Cooper rumors were out at that point, but I was like, this opens up to where if we want to trade Gallup for like a third, maybe a second, like, perfect. Let's do it. Keep Cooper. Let's go Cooper, Lamb, Washington, maybe add a third or fourth receiver in the draft. But that was not in the cards. The Cowboys continue to be stupid with their organization. Let's go on to a hopefully more happy re-signing in Malik Hooker.
Real quick, I had a point and I was going to make it.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
With the Cooper trade, you now have to fill 2 roles with 1 receiver in the draft, and that is the speed and the route running. Because you don't have a great route runner on the team anymore.
Nope.
You have a good one in CeeDee Lamb, but you don't have a truly great route runner. And I was going into this draft thinking, okay, you're going to get your burner. You're going to get your Jameson Williams, possibly with the injury. You're going to get someone with that speed. And in this draft class, there's a lot of that. We saw it at the combine, and yes, it was fast track, but there's a lot of speed in this class. But now you've got to combine that speed with the savvy route runner in 1 pick. We'll talk about who I believe that would be when we get to draft talk, but now we're going to talk about Malik Hooker.
Real quick, there was 10 receivers, I think, that ran a sub 4.4 in the combine.
Fastest receiver class ever.
Maybe there was 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, there was 8, but still an absolutely stupid amount. And there's 3 that I see are day 3 picks right now.
Yeah, with Tyquan Thornton and then a couple others.
Bell Melton and Velus Jones.
Yeah. Velus Jones, I don't know if he's a day 3 pick. I think he may go undrafted, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, he offers return ability, but at best, he's a day 3 pick.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there's Danny Gray, too. I don't know where he goes, but
probably another day 3 guy.
Yeah, so.
Anyway, Malik Hooker. Malik Hooker is, well, he played pretty good in his limited opportunities last year. They had him playing behind DeMonte Casey, which I didn't agree with, but, they signed Casey first. He was a Dan Quinn guy, so they gave him the starting role. Malik Hooker started playing a lot more later in the season, and he played really well for what we've seen in terms of safety play in Dallas, as the fan base that is notorious for clamoring for safeties in the draft every year. But Malik Hooker's back. He's on a 2-year deal. I think he's going to be your starting free safety if you don't draft one, which we know they're not going to do, so it's not even really worth talking about because Dallas doesn't draft safeties. And running a safety core of Malik Hooker as your center fielder and Jaron Kearse as your in the box kind of linebacker type safety who can also cover and erase tight ends from the game, I think you've got a good safety core, and I haven't said that ever as a Cowboys fan. So,
I mean, yeah, like Malik Hooker was one of my biggest campaigns to get on the team last year. Again, he fit the perfect mold of a Cowboys signing of low risk, high reward. His college tape was one of the best college tapes I've ever watched. It was pre-injury. He was a perfect center fielder. Got an amazing break on the ball. Had amazing instincts, amazing range. Clean, changed the direction. His college tape was absolutely phenomenal. Unfortunately, when he got to the NFL, he was plagued with injuries like ACLs, I think maybe an Achilles, but he was plagued with injuries and he was a fraction of himself. He fit the Cowboys mold, and I was like, please sign him to at least a 1-year deal, prove it deal. And he did enough. Like you said, he wasn't half bad. When he got more playing time, he did a good job. And I'm happy that he's back. Like, it's probably one of the most positive I'll be on the stream until draft targets. But he did enough to earn a job back this year. And I'm glad to see it. Like, if the Cowboys can limit his role to where he plays like 50 to 60 snaps, like help keep his knee clean and everything, like he could be a reliable rotation piece starter for quite a few years.
I will
So
say,
I'm happy he's back. I mean, I'm glad he rebounded in Dallas. He'll never be what he was in college, which is just sad, but I'm happy he's back.
if he was the starting free safety in the Patriots game, it doesn't go to overtime because he would have made the play on the Kendrick Bourne touchdown that everyone wants to pin on Trayvon Diggs. Again, topic for another day.
And we'll talk about someone who's been the subject of discussion a bit, Michael Gallup. I know you're a big Gallup guy.
My girlfriend has Michael Gallup's jersey, man. And I was fully anticipating having to get her another jersey because I was fully anticipating this being his last year in Dallas. I was at the Cardinals game, my first ever Cowboys game, and I watched Michael Gallup tear his ACL. And I thought that was his last snap as a Cowboy, and I thought I was there live for it. He is one of my favorite players on the team. I'm glad he's back, and he signed a good contract for the team and a good contract for himself, which is all you ever want to see as a fan of the team. You want to see the players get played what they deserve, and you want to see the team benefit from the contract. He is a player who has a lot of chemistry with Dak Prescott, despite early years not having it. Throwback to the Rams game in the playoffs. He's your deep threat on this team. He is going to make all the sideline catches in the world. He's got the best one of the best toe drags in the NFL, which is still bizarre to me that the Cowboys receivers are so good on the sidelines. But he's a good player. Glad to have him back. Wouldn't have kept him if their plan was to sign James Washington and trade Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the contract is very good for the Cowboys. I don't hate it at all in that sense, but keeping him and adding James Washington and losing Amari Cooper makes no sense to me. None whatsoever. So, I mean, I feel like Dallas fans are either going to naturally love or hate Gallup now because, like, you lost Amari Cooper for him. So, like, Dallas fans, they're completely by whether, like, they're either going to love or hate him now.
We're seeing fans turn on CeeDee Lamb, man. This offseason has been the anti-CeeDee Lamb show in a lot of what I'm seeing. So this fan base is fickle as hell, and we know this. I think the hardest part for us as fans regarding the Cooper situation is understanding that it was the front office's decision based on the person they perceived him to be, which isn't fair, personally, because I don't see any reason for them to think he's a terrible person. He just didn't fit what they like in their players personality-wise. And, there's nothing we as fans can do about that. If a player doesn't fit the Joneses' personality traits, they're not going to be a Cowboy for too long. They fall in love with their guys. That's why Jalen Smith got paid early. As a massive Jalen Smith fan who acknowledges that he fell off a cliff after that contract. That's why Zeke got paid early. And that's why, despite what everyone thinks, Zeke's not getting cut after this year if he runs even a little bit well. Everyone's saying, oh, we're going to be out of that contract in 2023. Don't get your hopes up if you're that big of a Zeke hater. It's not going to happen. Jerry loves that man. Jerry loves Dak. Dak's a great player. Dak deserves the contract 100%. But my point is the Joneses fall in love with their guys, and they pay their guys. And we as fans, hard to understand that because we see players as players a lot of the time instead of people, which isn't fair to them either.
Yeah, real quick on Zeke, I think he could run for a 750 and 8 touchdowns and not get cut.
I
As
think
long as Tony Pollard doesn't do half bad, his job is safe.
mhm. I think they're a good 1-2 punch. I think Zeke played hurt all year. I will not buy into the narrative that he's washed because he was running really well before he fell on that pylon in week 5 against the Giants and played with a torn ligament in his knee the rest of the season. He should have sat. He absolutely should have sat and let Tony Pollard carry the rock for a few weeks. But I fully expect Zeke Elliott to stay a Cowboy. And for the fans who want him gone and think he's actually going to be gone, don't get your hopes up.
Yeah, you got at least 2 more years of Zeke, I would think, at least before
And
the Cowboys are
interestingly
like
enough,
the dead money.
as a fan of Zeke, I wouldn't hate moving on from him this offseason because, again, running back shelf lives are tough. You've got a good back in Tony Pollard. And if you look ahead to the 2023 draft for a second, the running back class next year, you're going to have 5 guys who are legitimate first-round talents. Now, they're not going to go.
Shout out to your boy Bijan.
I was trying to avoid it, but yeah, I am a Texas fan, and Bijan Robinson's the best running back in the nation. But you've got other guys. Ole Miss's Zach Evans. You've got Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama and a couple other running backs from Alabama. You've got Blake Corum from Michigan. You've got so many good running backs next year that it would be the perfect time to move on from Zeke, even as someone who loves Zeke and would love to see him in Dallas as long as he can.
And before we move on to the next two, I'll group them together. We have a shout out in the comments to you from Win Mode !88 Guns and Outdoors. What's up, Austin? Been a while, man.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know who this is,
Oh, you
but
just hurt his feelings, you asshole.
I'm sorry. I have a feeling I know who it is, but I'm sure he'll let us know.
Yeah, if you're still here, let Austin know because apparently he's dumb and forgets who you are. Doesn't want to make you feel bad, but the next two names on our list are Brian Anger and I have in my notes a long snapper. I know his last name is Quaid. I think his first name is Jake, but they're specialists and we can group them together.
Yeah.
How do you feel about them?
All right. So it's somebody from my Facebook football group. Hey, Mark, good to talk to you. I hope your Jaguars don't mess up your number 1 overall pick, but I know for a fact you've talked about not wanting Aiden Hutchinson, and it's probably going to be Aiden Hutchinson. So I apologize for that now. Brian Anger, Jake McQuaid, brought him in together last offseason. McQuaid to the chagrin of Cowboys fans everywhere as they let Cowboys legend LP LaDucier go for no real reason because he didn't fall off in play at all. I remember going on the Cowboys Stadium tour in the locker room this past summer and seeing LaDucier's locker and tearing up a little bit because I knew he wasn't there anymore. Brian Anger was an all-pro, one of the best punters in the league last year, and Jake McQuaid didn't miss a long snap, so they're specialists, and they're pretty good ones, so not really much to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what your plan was, really, like, in releasing a long snapper. I'm not going to pretend I know if the Cowboys have a backup long snapper on roster, because quite frankly, I don't give a fuck about that position. Yeah. As long as you snap the ball well to the punter, you're doing your job, and I don't care. So if they have someone in the works as a backup, fine by me. But if he screws up at least more than once on the season, I'm going to have some words. Brian Anger, I can't be too mad about bringing back an all-pro, although punt god is in the draft.
And several others if you don't get Ariza.
Shout out to Ryan Stonehouse, my boy out of Colorado State. Had like an 83-yard punt this year against Vanderbilt. He's my boy. I love that dude. But, I mean, he might be a UDFA, and you could have got him if Catboy was insistent on saving money and not bringing back a punter.
Paying $3 million a year.
There you go.
It's only $3 million a year for 3 years, but that's still for punter. You don't want to pay people top end dollars. You pay a punter $3 million a year.
I mean, we made big deals about all these damn contracts before. Be like, oh, it's going to save us so much more money.
Only so much pie.
Punter, like, man, like, You can get a UDFA punter every 4 years and be happy and be fine. There's not going to be a punter in the draft that can't average at minimum, absolute worst, 40 yards to punt. Like, that's at absolute worst. Ariza can average probably 60. He's probably going third or fourth round. Stonehouse, I think his average is like 52, if I remember correctly. He might be a UDFA. Like, if you're looking to save money, Cap Boy, look at the fucking draft. You preach draft our guys and re-sign them, but what the hell?
I think that the PTSD from the end of Chris Jones's tenure in Dallas got to him, honestly.
Hey, shout out to Chris Jones, though, for that hit. That was fucking insane.
If only he could have punted at the end. It was 2 bad years of punting after that. Mark says, give me a wide receiver, Neal or Hamilton at 1 over Hutchinson any day.
Which wide receiver are you taking?
At 1?
Yeah, I don't know. You got to trade back.
Yeah. I think Jacksonville should trade back unless they're going to take Thibodeau, personally. But
Neal wouldn't be a bad option. I know I wasn't big on him over the summer due to his balance issues. I thought he got pulled over very easily last year, but that was all virtually resolved on tape this year. Like, he massively improved. And Hamilton, with his testing, he might slip to 20s. Like, I know his tape was absolutely phenomenal, but, like, his testing was bad.
the draft needs to be in March because this is the point of the draft cycle where we get to the Kyle Hamilton's not actually that good. No.
Oh, I still think he's good, but his testing was not ideal.
He still had like a 9.3 test score overall, or RAS score overall.
Oh, really?
I am not concerned about the 40 time at all. He still tested like an elite athlete. Everyone's saying he's Jaron Curse or Jaron Curse like. He's Harrison Smith like is who he is. And I don't like comps at all, but he is the next Harrison Smith.
I think if he got drafted by Dallas, Dallas would view him as a Jaron Curse role, and that's completely their fault.
And that's why they won't take him.
Yeah.
They've just re-signed Curse.
I don't hate the Curse comp for what it's worth because
if it was
Dallas specific, but I would think he's more Harrison Smith-esque.
He is a super. If you're comping him to Jaron Curse, he is a supercharged Jaron Curse, and that's no slight to Jaron Curse.
All right, to speed things up, we'll move on to the next two.
Sorry, I do got to address this comment. Is Hockett going to be correct about Lawrence? For those of you who don't know, and Browning is one of them, Dave Hockett is someone in that football group who I do not at all get along with. He has been kind of like personally aggressive towards me for my takes. And he's just not a very nice person. No, he's not going to be right about Trevor Lawrence. I'm not worried about Lawrence at all. This man said DJ Dallas was the best blocking running back in that class whenever Seattle drafted him because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
What?
Sorry, I got on a rant. DJ Dallas was the best blocking running back in that, or pass blocking running back in that draft, according to this guy that Mark's talking about.
Like so, all 5'8" or 5'9" of DJ Dallas?
Yeah, that was a disgusting conversation that I didn't want to bring up. So we're gonna move past this because we're at 55 minutes and we've still got draft talk to go to.
Hey, Mark, Facebook is a cesspool. It fucking sucks. Don't get on it.
Yeah, that's really why you haven't seen me all that much, Mark. Is just because Facebook's a nightmare. So I've been staying out most of the time.
But yeah, Dorrance Armstrong and Dalton Schultz.
Dorrance Armstrong, they're trying to make I think he's going to be he's another one of Jerry's guys. He's going to be the starting pass rusher outside or on the other side of Marcus Lawrence. He did play pretty well. He had a career high, I think 6 sacks this year. He was a 5th round pick, 4th round pick, somewhere around there. But he's one of Jerry's guys. They wanted to pay him. They were okay with losing Gregory because they could pay Armstrong and a couple other guys what they paid, or for the prices they would have paid Gregory. I like Armstrong. He's good. As for Dalton Schultz, good player. Good tight end. Why? Why franchise tag him? Why pay him $10 million for this year and probably end up paying him more on the long-term contract in this tight end class? we had 2 fantastic tight end prospects last year and then a couple others that were really good. This year's class is so good. You've got Trey McBride from Colorado State. You've got Cade Otton from Washington, who is Jason Witten-like. Not Jason Witten-like in terms of that level of, or he's going to be Jason Witten. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, but he's a similar player to Jason Witten. You've got the guys that the Cowboys are probably going to like in Jelani Woods out of Virginia, who I haven't gotten to watch, but is an athletic freak. You've got Jalen Weidermeyer, who is probably undraftable based on the testing, but he's going to be a guy Dallas likes a lot. You've got Jake Ferguson, who's another guy who's going to be a good balanced tight end who can actually block, unlike Dalton Schultz. You've got Greg Dulcich from UCLA, who apparently a lot of people are starting to really like. I haven't gotten a chance to watch him because, again, wasn't watching many players this year. And that's just the top tier guys. You've got James Mitchell from Virginia Tech. You've got Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio State. My personal, one of my guys, Cole Turner from Nevada. It's such a deep and talented tight end class. There was no reason to franchise tag Dalton Schultz. I would have let him walk. But he was the number one safety blanket for Dak because of the way the offense was operating under Kellen Moore this year. So it was a move Dallas was always going to make. You got to draft 2 tight ends in this class, in my opinion, if you're Dallas, especially with losing Blake Jarwin.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head when you said why. Like, I'm looking at my tight end list right now. I have 7 graded so far. Getting to 2 more for sure, hopefully 3. I have 3 graded in the second round, and that's McBride, Woods, and Dulcich in order. And then in 4th, it's Otton, Ferguson, Ruckert, and Weidermeyer, because I really couldn't go any lower with this testing. Like, I gave him a 0.5 for speed, and that's as low as I couldn't put him at 0. Like, I just can't do that.
Weidermeyer's tough because he does have solid tape. He's just a below negative athlete.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, he was a second based off film from my evaluation, and that was with bad explosion and bad speed. But I put his speed down to like a 0.5 or 0.1, and that still put him in the 4th round. So I'm not going any lower on him, but I mean, there are plenty of options, and I don't get tagging Schultz. He was pegged, I don't want to say necessarily as the next Jason Witten, as a decent receiving threat, above average blocker. But like you said, his blocking hasn't lived up whatsoever.
And it makes no sense because he was drafted with very little receiving ability, and as a blocker specifically, that was what he was drafted to do in 2018, and he can't block anymore.
His roles are reversed. Like, he's become an above average receiver.
It's like he worked so hard on his receiving.
Defender in contested catch scenarios, but his blocking has fallen off an absolute cliff. And I don't get it. And it's funny you mention Cade Otton as a Jason Witten. I think that's who said comp.
A little bit of Jason.
Because I think I tweeted out Cade Otton is Jason Witten light.
That's probably where I saw it, and I just stuck with it. In fact,
it matches up really well. I mean, Cade Otton's an above average blocker. He's a lot like Schultz, honestly, coming out of college. You just hope he can translate better than Schultz did in blocking.
Yeah.
But the franchise tag of Schultz makes absolute no sense to me. But regardless, we got some more names to get to. We got Carlos Watkins and Leighton Vander Esch next on the bill.
Watkins is he's rotational depth at defensive tackle. There's really not much to say about him. He played solid this year, but no need to talk about him. As for Leighton Vander Esch, that one kind of shocked me whenever I saw that he was coming back for a 1-year deal. I didn't expect him to be back with the Cowboys, not because he wasn't playing. He was playing very meh. Like, he was average. He was better than a lot of people were saying. Towards the end, he was like, whenever Jalen Smith fell off a cliff, he also kind of fell off a cliff with the 2 neck injuries, and his play just kind of dipped from that outstanding rookie year that he had. But he was still playing kind of, I don't want to say solid. I think solid's too lenient or too generous. He was playing all right. He was making some plays late in the season. So it's good to have him back for a year. It's kind of a prove it deal. It gives you some depth in the linebacker room. I'm sure you're going to add one in the draft, if not two. I know you've had Devin Lloyd in for a top 30 visit. That would be fantastic, by the way. Micah Parsons and Devin Lloyd running around this defense would be insane. But he's there. He's a Cowboys kind of player. You took him in 19th overall in 2018. You signed him for a year. And you didn't have to pay him the 50-year option, which as a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro would have been a lot more than what he would have deserved.
Did he get All-Pro?
I think he did his rookie year. I could have made that up, but let me check real quick because he was
pretty sure he got Pro Bowl, but All-Pro, wow.
He was absolutely outstanding his rookie year. Like,
yeah, I know him and Jalen Ron won his rookie year, but then they
I was
fell off.
so excited for both of them. Second team All-Pro.
Wow.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace to my bank account and Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith.
You think Jalen Smith's going to come back? Probably not.
No.
I mean, Dallas tends to do freaking stupid things, man.
Maybe if he signed a fully unguaranteed deal, which he would never do because clear eye view, he's the best linebacker in the league, but
I don't understand what happened to Jalen Smith because he was such a good person with the story, and then he went crazy with the branding.
Oh yeah, clear.
I feel like that's what people are afraid of when they talk about Kayvon Thibodeau being about things outside of football, which is dumb.
Could be, but yeah, Carlos Watkins, I don't have much to say. I mean, I can maybe remember one sack of him this season. I can't even tell you what game it was.
I think he had a fumble recovery for a touchdown or a pick six.
I think that was it. He had a tip pick six or something like that.
I think it was against the Saints. No, Tank was against the Saints.
Yeah, Tank was against Saints. I don't remember what Carlos's was, but he didn't stand out a ton this season. But I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's presumably a cheap deal. So can't be mad about that. Van Der Esch, I mean, Austin said it. He stood out in a great way his rookie year. And then like Jalen, he kind of, quite frankly, fell off a cliff. Don't know what happened. His reads seemed to get worse, whether his cues, whether his reading reaction got worse, or just he didn't spend enough time in the film room. Quite frankly, I'm not sure because we're not in the star. We don't know. But, I mean, a one-year deal back and not picking up the fifth-year option is not the worst thing in the world, and I don't hate it. I agree. I think they could go linebacker again in the draft. I think they will. Depends on the round. Devin Lloyd, if he falls 24, not a bad option. I've heard Nakobe Dean. I'm not sure the Cowboys will love his measurables. I think he's going to be on the back end of their board. Maybe if
not a
for
Dan
whatever reason he was there in the second, yeah, sure, but I doubt that.
Not a Dan Quinn guy because he's not big enough.
Yeah, so
which is dumb because he's so good.
I don't hate the Van Der Esch re-signing. I think it's good in a one-year deal, but we'll move on to the next two, and Noah Brown and Luke Gifford.
Well, Browning popped out for a second. That was unexpected. Do we really need to talk about these guys? Their depth. Noah Brown is still here. He's solid. Oh, there he is. Welcome back. Let's see. Noah Brown is depth. Luke Gifford is depth. That's all I really have to say.
Yeah, I mean, Noah Brown's been a good run blocker when he's been in. Like, always hopes he would develop. I haven't really seen much of that, but again, I don't have the contract details in front of me.
Both 1 years.
Yeah, so I can't be mad about that.
The issue with
the last two, and a DeMarcus Lawrence restructure and J-Ron Curse.
DeMarcus Lawrence is still here. That's good. We were hearing rumblings they were going to release him, at which point I probably would have gone and been a Chargers fan. and still might, depending on what the Cowboys do in the next couple of years with guys like CeeDee Lamb and Trayvon Diggs. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Demarcus Lawrence, the best run defender on this team, and the second best defender on this team at worst. Sacks don't tell the whole story. You've heard it all before. You have heard it all before. Yes, he's getting paid a lot, but he deserves it. The impact he makes is immeasurable when he's on the field. And for a fan base that complains about not being able to stop the run, trying to get rid of your best run defender ain't going to help that. As for Jaron Kearse, man came out of nowhere. We signed him. He was like the fourth safety we signed last offseason. No one thought he was going to really be anything other than a special teamer on this team. Came out and became the tight end eraser that this team needed, made some really good plays on the ball in the air, had a couple come back from penalties that shouldn't have. I remember that specifically. I think it was the Chargers game. He had an interception called back for pass interference that wasn't even close to pass interference. But he came in and gave you a legitimate box safety option, which you've had decent box safeties with in the past, but really none since Roy Williams, which was 10 years ago, 15 years ago almost. So he gave you that. He's a safety that the Cowboys needed to re-sign, and they did. He's a good player. And if you know anything about me, my entire brand is get good safeties. As someone who never actually played football, but if I would have played safety, because that's or at least on the basketball court, that instinct that you need to make plays across the field or across the court was something I had. I love safeties, and I want good safeties. I've been pining for the Cowboys to get good safeties since Kenny Vaccaro was in the draft. That was 2011, I want to say. So I'm happy Jaron Kearse is back.
Yeah, real quick, I see your boy commenting saying he likes Nakobe Dean. We both love Nakobe Dean, I'm pretty sure. I just don't think he fits the Cowboys mold.
This guy is a Georgia fan, so he knows a lot about this defense. And
I like Nakobe Dean. Like, he's a first rounder on my board. I love the guy. He may be a low first rounder for me personally, but I loved his tape. Think he's a great player. I just don't think with his measurables he'll be on the Cowboys board specifically.
And there are some things to look out for because he was running behind a defensive line that featured Trayvon Walker, Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, and the best of the bunch who's not even draft eligible, Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
So your job's a lot easier as a linebacker if you've got a front four like that, or even a competent front four. And that's been a lot of the issues with the Cowboys linebackers for years, is they haven't had that front four.
And the Cowboys have one good edge, great edge, one great rotational edge, and two hopeful defensive tackles.
I think we have our defensive tackles. I think we have a good rotation with Neville Gallimore and Osa Odighizuwa. I just need a run stopper.
Yeah, those are my hopefuls. Like, they can turn out to be something, but right now, like, I wouldn't feel comfortable relying on them 17 games.
It's a shame
on 3 to 4 downs. But yeah.
Need a run stopper.
So, Demarcus Lawrence restructure thoughts. It seemed team friendly. I'm sure it was friendly for him as well as a player. I'm not mad. Whatever gets the team more money. Again, Catboy Stephen Jones tried to offer him a fucking shit deal. And he was just like, absolutely not a chance. And Jerry steps in and was like, okay, yeah, we'll give you this. He's like, okay, thank you. That is actually reasonable. I want to say Catboy offered him like $10 million. And that's just unexcusable. Like, what the hell?
Fucking Stephen Jones.
Another reason to be fired, but Jerry loves his family, apparently.
All right.
Jaron Kearse, I mean, he was at best like a hopeful rotational piece coming into Dallas last year. I want to say he came from Minnesota.
Yeah. Or he started in Minnesota.
Yeah, and he turned out to be a very good piece in this defense. He, again, revitalized his career under Dan Quinn, which is what we're hopeful for Dante Fowler. So, Maybe Dan Quinn can strike gold twice. I don't know. But I'm happy he's back in a place he feels comfortable and a place that revitalized his career. I know we're getting a little bit long on time, so we'll just go over first 2-3 round targets for the Cowboys.
All right. So there's a lot of options at the end of the first round. Personally, if I was a betting man, I would say the Cowboys' first 2 picks are going to be a combination of offensive line and receiver. I believe those are going to be the first 2 guys the Cowboys pick in the draft, whether it's receiver in the first round with Treylon Burks, Chris Olave, who is the guy I would hope would be there because he is the guy I alluded to earlier in the sense that he has the savvy, smooth route running ability and also the speed. So Chris Olave out of Ohio State would be probably my number 1 receiver on the board for Dallas if they were to go there in round 1. Receiver, I don't really want in round 1. I would say, and I don't think this is a realistic thing because I think the hype's gotten a little bit out of control and I don't think he'll actually go there. But Christian Watson out of North Dakota State, I think he would be more of a guy I would want in the second, even though I like him quite a bit. As for offensive linemen, you want one of Kenyon Green or Zion Johnson, and it's really as simple as that. I know Tyler Linderbaum is falling, and a lot of the fan base doesn't want Tyler Biadasz. But if you are going offensive line in the first round, you want one of those 2 left guards. They both offer position versatility. They both offer starting ability right away, and they can develop into something really great on that left guard spot that is now empty with Connor Williams gone. As for linemen, I don't want in the first round. Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa. I think he's got potential, but I think he is. You thought Connor Williams was bad with penalties. This man is going to be so penalized in the first few years in the NFL because he is so grabby and he's violent, and that's a good thing. But it will get him into trouble. And another one who I'm starting to see mocked to Dallas a lot more, and I really would hate it. It would be my number 1 nightmare scenario in round 1 is Bernard Ryman out of Central Michigan because he's older and he's still raw. So he's a guy that's going to be 27 before he's ready to really come into a ceiling. Don't want that at 24.
Yeah, I mean, you hit my 2 nightmare scenarios at the end there. Like, I have Raymond or Ryman, however you pronounce it, actually ahead of Penning, and I would absolutely hate them both at 24. Neither of them is plug and play. And what you're looking for in the first at least 2 rounds is plug and play. Ideally, you can get to round 3, but that can be a stretch for some teams, depending on the class. But Penning might be 3 years away from being a reliable starter. Ryman might be 2 years away in an ideal scenario.
And at that point, he's 27.
Yeah, so I mean, you're 3 years away from 30-year-old productive player. Ideal scenario, like Kenyon Green has become a popular selection, and I wouldn't hate that at all. I love Kenyon Green. Let's see, where is he on my board currently? He is currently player 10 on my board, so that'd be a fantastic value at 24. If Treylon Burks somehow slips, you bet your ass Jerry's going to be in that war room saying, draft my Razorback.
Yeah.
Like,
my concern is he's somewhat similar to CeeDee Lamb.
He is. He did take a lot of reps in the slot, but I do think he has the ability to hang out on the outside. He's currently my wide receiver 2 behind Garrett Wilson, who should have no business being at 24. But if Treylon Burks is at 24, I would bet money Jerry's in that war room saying, draft my Razorback. Now, whether Will McClay actually listens, that's a different scenario. Zion Johnson is another candidate. I wouldn't hate. I have a low first on him. Like, I would prefer Kenyon Green, and I would think Green fits the Cowboys' mold of positional flexibility, as he has experience at tackle and guard. I'm not quite sure Zion Johnson does. He may have taken some reps at center. He may have taken some at tackle. But I'm pretty sure I saw him at guard for all the games I watched. Um, Other candidates in the first round, Austin had Chris Olave. I wouldn't hate that, especially since they released or traded Amari Cooper. I think he would fit Amari Cooper's role very well. Again, I just hate that you would have to spend a first on a receiver when you already have that role on your team ready to go. Austin alluded to earlier, not necessarily as a Cowboys target, but I love my boy Devontae Wyatt. He's interior defensive lineman in one. I don't think he's a Cowboys target. A dark horse for me is Boye Mafe out of Minnesota.
I don't even know if I'd call it a dark horse anymore. I think he goes in the first round, and I wouldn't even be surprised if it is Dallas because they need the pass rush.
Yeah, I mean, the trade or release of Randy Gregory, whatever it was, I think trade, yeah. I mean, unless you plan on pigeonholing Micah Parsons at defensive end, which is never a good idea to pigeonhole a unicorn player, you need someone there who can fill a role full time while you move Mike around. And Boye Mafe's testing was amazing. I know I brought it up in Cowboys Twitter spaces before, and I've been told, like, no way the Cowboys are going to take an edge. Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm just saying if Kenyon Green, Zion Johnson, and all the receivers are off the board for whatever reason, Boye Mafe wouldn't surprise me if he was Cowboys' pick.
I'd be disappointed if they took him over Tyler Linderbaum, but I also don't think Tyler Linderbaum is going to fit the Cowboys mold at center. I don't think they're going
I
to.
agree. I think if he was on the board, they wouldn't take him. As
What do we
much
think
as I love him, he's a top 5 player for me. He's player 5. If he was on the board, I don't think the Cowboys would take him.
I'm going to segue into that, considering Tyler Linderbaum's probably going to fall, even though we both think he's a top player in this class. What do you think about guys like we talked about Kyle Hamilton if he was there at 24, or Derek Stingley if he was there at 24? What do you think about potentially adding one of those super talented but falling for some reason guys into the fray?
Would I take him? Without a fucking doubt. Like, absolutely. The only person I think they would consider is Stingley. I don't think they're going to take Hamilton whatsoever. They haven't showed value in the safety position since I was conceived, I'm pretty sure. Like, they haven't planned on showing any change. Kyle Hamilton, like, I didn't adjust the score for his testing. I might. I don't know if I will. But he's player 1 on my board. His film was absolutely incredible. Some of the best I've ever seen. Derek Stingley is player 10 on my board. Or maybe player 9. His freshman tape was, again, some of the best I've ever seen. The past 2 years, not so much. Whether it's been him less desiring to play with the team around him, injuries, I don't know. I'm not there, but his freshman tape, you can put it up against any cornerback you've ever watched, and it's hard to top. Like, him and Diggs in the backfield, you have a potential shutdown corner and Stingley on one side, and then you have the big play threat to either go your way or go against your way in Diggs. Like, that's a championship starting secondary.
I want to talk about that for a second because we see the entire internet freak out about the yards Trayvon Diggs gave up, which I want to mention. I never saw anyone talk about cornerback yards given up ever until this year, until Trayvon Diggs started giving up a lot of yards. But I also want to establish that what was every draft analyst saying about Trayvon Diggs when he was coming out of college? This is a boomer bust kind of guy who's going to either make a big play or give up a big play. I said that, and that was my second year scouting, and I wasn't good at it. And I could see it coming. So I don't know why we're freaking out about Trayvon Diggs not being the best coverage guy yet when we knew this coming out of Alabama. If you add a guy like Derek Stingley to Trayvon Diggs in that cornerback room and you throw Kelvin Joseph in the slot, you've got what's potentially going to be the best cornerback room in the NFL in 3 years because Trayvon Diggs is continuing to get better in coverage, and he's already got the ball skills of a receiver. You've got Derek Stingley, who, if he stays healthy, is going to be that pure coverage corner and could be the best in the NFL one day. And you've got Kelvin Joseph, who's really, really good in the slot based on his college tape.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, as Stingley slid at 24,
Send it.
I mean, depending on who's on the board, like, if Kenyon Green was on the board, you could talk to me. If Tyler Linderbaum is on the board, I know the Cowboys wouldn't feel the same way, but I would be having a real discussion. Kyle Hamilton, for whatever reason, I would be having a real discussion. But if Zion Johnson and Kenyon Green are gone and Stingley's on the board, yeah, I'm running that card to the podium.
Absolutely. And that's the thing about this draft. At 24, you're going to get a good player because there are really good players sliding for various reasons. And there are just a lot of good players in the draft at the top. Not great. It's a lot of your 1 to 10 in this class are great. And a couple of guys that are going to go in the top 10 that I wouldn't necessarily classify as great, but they could be great. That is absolutely a Trayvon Walker comment, by the way. But your 12 to about 40, 50 range, they're all players that are similar in terms of how good they are, which is really good for you in that when you're drafting in that range. That's just how this draft is. And with the down quarterback class, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, right now I have 23 first-round grades, and I guarantee you my 23 first-round grades are not going to be the first 23 off the board. So, and I'm not saying NFL teams use my board, but you're going to be sitting at good value at 24.
And you're going to
Whether it's
take
the offensive lineman, someone that falls like Stingley, Hamilton, whoever, like, you're going to be sitting good.
And you're going to take Bernard Ryman because they hate us.
And I will flip my shit.
Oh, that'll be hilarious. We should do a Draft Time Cowboys stream. Let the guys do a BCS stream and we do a Draft Time stream.
We might for the Cowboys pick if they get close enough. We can think about it. We might do it. Real quick to wrap things up. What about his second round target? Let's say the Cowboys go.
Let's say Green.
Okay, yeah, let's say Green first round. Who are you targeting second?
Kenyon Green's a Cowboy. You're hoping George Pickens falls to you. I don't think he will, but you're hoping that. Receiver gets a little bit sketchy in the second or third round. Me personally, and this is my bias for this player, I think that Khalil Shakir should be seen in a higher light in this class, and I would have no issues taking him at 56 or wherever we're at. I really wouldn't. I think he is dynamic in the slot. I think he's got great speed. Not great speed, good speed, but he's such a good route runner. He's so good after the catch. I think he would fit perfectly with CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. And that's not just me saying that because he was my guy from the summer. That is me saying that because I think that is a perfect fit in Dallas. So I would be looking there, even though I think he's more of a third, fourth round guy in the NFL's eyes. And if you can get him in the third or fourth, holy cow, that would be excellent for Dallas. Other guys, Chad Muma, linebacker out of Wyoming, because you're going to need a linebacker at some point. Terrell Bernard, maybe not in the second, out of Baylor, but he's definitely a guy you're looking at in day 2, day 3. Outside, what other positions? Edge guys. What edge guys are we looking at? Probably not Arnold Ebiketie because I think he's going to go higher than people expect.
Kingsley and Barry, maybe.
Maybe, but I haven't seen a lot of great things about him from the people I trust, so I don't know. Myjai Sanders, maybe, but there's questions there. David Ojabo, if he falls to you at 56, you're sprinting that card to the podium because his talent is top 10 and he got hurt, unfortunately, with the torn Achilles. But that dude is so explosive off the edge, and he has got so much untapped potential that he hasn't really tapped into. And he does actually have some solid pass rush plan in place already. He's just got to hone it in a little bit. He would have been a Philadelphia Eagle probably at 15 if he not got hurt at the pro day. And I don't necessarily think he's going to be there because Philly does have a second round pick and I know they love him. But if David Ojabo was there at 56, this is the easiest pick of the night.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Ajabo's player 8 on my board, and I don't account injury into my scale because I'm not a doctor. I just came back from the dead. I don't know anything else about it. But Yeah.
Oh, man.
If
That
Ojabo is there in second, I'm absolutely sprinting to the podium. 2 seconds after I'm on the clock, I'm turning that card in.
that is JOK to the Browns last year.
Yeah, 100%. Like, not one question about it.
I know a lot of people that agree with that, Mark. He says he's a better player for the NFL than Hutchinson, in his opinion.
I
I
don't
know.
disagree. I put it in the blue chip group chat. I'm like, I wouldn't hate if people had Ojabo over Hutchinson.
I know that our
Got
guy Ben
0
Boswell does.
reactions. And then 2 hours later, Ben put it in the group chat and got like 4 reactions. I'm like, what the hell? I said the same thing 3 hours ago, and no one said a damn thing. Like, what?
Y'all are missing out by not being in the blue chip scouting group chat. That's all I'm going to say.
But yeah, other positions I would consider if the Cowboys go Kenyon Green. Christian Watson, if he's there, I'd consider him. I doubt he's there. Austin said George Pickens. I would pretty much take him. Sky Moore out of Western Michigan. I'd take him if he was there.
So that's a guy I tend to forget about, even though I was the Matt guy for a solid month. I never got to Sky Moore whenever I was in that role. I did not have a lot of time last summer, and it was rough. Do you take Trey McBride if he's there at 56?
My scale says yes, but for the Cowboys, I would go Jelani Woods, and I think they're hoping he slips to the third.
I think there are too, but I don't think it happens. I don't think he goes in the top 18 like that one guy said on Twitter. But
Yeah.
I think he's a solid second round guy after the testing he put on.
At the worst, I think he falls 5 picks into the third round. So, but other names I wouldn't be opposed to. Perrion Winfrey out of Oklahoma, Logan Hall out of Houston, Fadarian Mathis out of Alabama. Although they're probably not gonna go into your defensive line. Austin said it with Ojabo. I'd be sprinting that card in. If Boye Mafe was there in second, I'd very much be considering that, considering he's a second round player on my board.
Honestly, if Ojabo starts,
go ahead.
If Ojabo starts to fall, I'm starting to call up and try and trade up. If I was in the war room, I would. If he starts to fall around 43, where did the Eagles pick in the second round?
Probably 43, 45.
Check real quick. Eagles pick in the second round at 51. So if he's there at about 45 with Baltimore, or maybe probably 44, because Baltimore might consider it, I would start calling Cleveland at 44 and try and get ahead of Baltimore and Philadelphia to take Ojabo if I was Dallas.
Yeah.
Oh man, I just talked myself into that. That's not good. That's going to be something I pedal on to until draft day, until Cleveland at 44 takes him, just like they did Grant Delpit.
Some other players I would consider in a second. The Georgia linebackers not named Nakobe Dean. Quay Walker, Channing Tindall, he got a third from me. Wouldn't be surprised to see him higher on the team's boards. I'd be livid if the Cowboys took Christian Harris. He is a third for me, but his eye discipline fucking sucks. It's not good.
And here I would be pounding the table for DeMarvion Overshown if he was in this draft, and he's the same thing.
Yeah.
Linebackers with bad eyes, man.
And then someone who I have graded lower, but I wouldn't be surprised if Cowboys are higher on, considering they've been active on his collegiate testing circuit. And again, he fits the bill of being a Dallas convict, is Sam Williams.
I fully expect Sam Williams to be a Cowboy.
If he's there in the third,
that feels like the edge
they'll take.
Feels like the edge they'll take. And if the off-field checks out, the tape's pretty damn good.
The tape's not bad. Like, I mean, I didn't dock him for his off the field because I'm not a lawyer, but he got a very high third for me on film, and I could argue he could have been a mid-second. So
Where
if
do we have Lewis
third
Seen
and
going?
this off the field is clear, I wouldn't hate it at all.
I think Lewis Seen sneaks into the back end of the first round. I think the Chiefs, with those back-to-back picks, will probably take him there. Honestly, I think they take a receiver, probably Dotson or Burks if he falls through the cracks, and then I think their second pick.
The Chiefs.
Dotson and Seen to the Chiefs sounds like something that could actually happen, and that would be really good. Now, Dotson's got to go to the Saints at 18 for our guy Devin Jackson.
True. Real quick, shout out to Nick Cross, my safety from Maryland. Love him. The Cowboys will never take him, but he's an amazing player, third-round player. Would probably do a pants-off dance-off if they took him, but that won't happen.
The apathy we feel towards falling in love with safeties, man.
Yep, it'll never happen because Cowboys hate good football players like they hated our Darius Washington and the rest of the league hated him, but, that's a story for another day.
All right. We're going to decide right now at the end of this show what we're going to do for our next show. Because why not? I think we should do a first-round mock. Skip away from the Cowboys for a little bit and just do a draft show, first-round mock, alternating picks.
Whole first round?
Whole first round, 1 to 32. You get odds, I get evens.
Let's do it.
All right. We'll do that probably middle of the week. Thank you guys for coming out to the return of the Draught Time podcast. I'm Austin Mowell. This is Tyler
Browning. It's been a minute. Glad to be back. Good to see y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Have a good one.
Go Cowboys.
Yes, sir.